The divorce papers were already waiting on the kitchen counter when I stumbled through the front door at 4:17 in the morning. My heels clicked against our marble floor, the sound echoing through our Boca Raton home like gunshots. Derek sat at the dining table, still wearing his work clothes from yesterday, his laptop open with security footage paused on the screen. "Sit down, Natalie," he said without looking up. My heart hammered against my ribs. The taste of another man's cologne clung to the back of my throat. My dress, the black one Derek bought me for our anniversary, was inside out. I hadn't noticed until that exact moment. "Baby, let me explain." "Sit down." I pulled out the chair across from him, my hands shaking as I tried to smooth my tangled hair. The kitchen smelled like coffee. He'd been waiting for hours. 6 months ago, I would have told you Derek Winters was the best thing that ever happened to me. 34 years old, successful real estate developer, devoted husband who still brought me flowers every Friday. We'd been married 8 years, together for 10. He'd supported me through nursing school, celebrated when I got my job at Boca Raton Regional, and never once complained about my 12-hour shifts. But somewhere along the way, I'd convinced myself it wasn't enough. It started with the new attending physician in the emergency department, Dr. Ryan Caldwell, 39, divorced, with salt and pepper hair, and hands that were steady during trauma codes. He noticed me in ways Derek had stopped noticing, complimented my work, asked my opinion on treatment plans, touched my shoulder when he passed by the nurses' station. "He makes me feel alive again," I'd told my sister Jenna over drinks at the town center mall. "Derek's sweet, but the spark is gone. We're basically roommates who share a mortgage." Jenna had frowned. "Natalie, Derek worships you. Don't throw that away for some doctor who's probably just looking for his next ex-wife." But I was already gone. The thrill of sneaking texts during shift changes, the rush of almost getting caught, the way Ryan looked at me like I was 25 again instead of 32 with crow's feet starting to show. It was intoxicating. The first time we kissed was in Supply Closet B during a night shift. The first time we slept together was at his condo in Delray Beach while Derek thought I was at a mandatory training seminar. By the time I realized I was in over my head, I'd already convinced myself that what Derek didn't know wouldn't hurt him. Tonight was supposed to be different. Ryan had invited me to Sapphire, that upscale club in downtown Boca where the Real Housewives filmed once. Said he wanted to take me somewhere special, show me off. I told Derek I was covering for Melissa, who had a sick kid. He'd kissed me goodbye and said he'd wait up. He'd waited up, all right. "The security system sends alerts to my phone," Derek said, finally looking at me. His eyes were red-rimmed but dry. "Every time someone enters or exits the house. Imagine my surprise when you left at 10:30 in that dress after telling me you were heading to the hospital in scrubs." My stomach turned to lead. "Derek, I'm not done." He turned the laptop toward me. "I also have a doorbell camera, and neighbors with doorbell cameras, and a best friend who happens to be at Sapphire tonight for his brother's birthday." "Derek, my friend picked me up. Melissa Dash, quote, "Was your friend Dr. Ryan Caldwell?" he asked. "In his white Mercedes?" My blood went cold. He clicked the mouse. The footage showed me getting into Ryan's white Mercedes, then another angle of us kissing in the valet line, then a photo his friend had taken of us grinding on the dance floor, my wedding ring catching the strobe lights as my hands tangled in Ryan's hair. 3 hours, Derek said. "You were there for 3 hours. Dancing, drinking, making out with another man while wearing the dress I bought you. While I sat here, worried you were dealing with some trauma patient, texting to see if you'd eaten dinner." The worst part was the calmness in his voice. No yelling, no throwing things, just quiet devastation. "How long?" he asked. "It doesn't matter." "How long?" 4 months, I whispered. He nodded slowly like he'd expected it. "The conference in Orlando?" I couldn't answer, but my silence said everything. "The weekend you said you were at your mother's?" Another damning silence. "The night of my company party when you had that Emergency surgery? Stop, I pleaded. Please, just stop. You know what the funny thing is? Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. I knew something was off. You started wearing matching underwear sets to work, bought new perfume, spent an hour getting ready for 12-hour shifts. But I thought maybe you were just trying to feel good about yourself. I actually went to Kay Jewelers last week to buy you something nice because I thought you might be feeling insecure about getting older. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and set it on the table. Inside was a pair of diamond earrings that must have cost $5,000. Happy early birthday, he said flatly. The tears came then, hot and shameful. Derek, please, it was a mistake. I'll end it right now. We can go to counseling. I've already called Tom Ferraro. He slid the divorce papers across the table. He's the best divorce attorney in Palm Beach County. I've also transferred half our savings into your account, which is more than you deserve, but what you're legally entitled to. You have 1 hour to pack your things. 1 hour? Derek, this is my home. No, he said, standing up. This was your home. Now it's just the place where you destroyed our marriage for a man who won't even return your texts tomorrow. That's not true. Ryan Caldwell. Derek pulled out his phone. The same Ryan Caldwell who's been engaged to Dr. Patricia Wong from cardiology for the past 2 months? The same one who has a pattern of sleeping with nurses and then discarding them when his fiancés find out. The room spun. What? I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. You're not his first affair, Natalie. You're not even his only current affair. But you are the only one stupid enough to think he'd leave his fiancée for you? I grabbed my phone, hands shaking as I scrolled through Ryan's Instagram. There she was. Patricia Wong, gorgeous cardiologist with her 4-carat engagement ring, posted just last week. The caption read, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." No, I breathed. He said he was single. He said his ex-wife was crazy. That's why he didn't talk about her. His ex-wife got a restraining order against him for harassment after she caught him with her Pilates instructor, Derek said. It's public record. Everything clicked into place. Why Ryan never invited me to his place. Why we only went to hotels or my car. Why he was always free during the day but never on weekends. Why he paid for everything in cash. I'm such an idiot, I sobbed. Yes, Derek agreed. You are. Please, I begged. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll never see him again. You think this is just about him? Derek's calm finally cracked. You think this is just about the sex? Natalie, you lied to my face every single day for 4 months. You gaslit me every day for 4 months. You let me plan our anniversary trip to Greece while you were planning your next hookup. You kissed me goodbye this morning knowing you were going to betray me tonight. I love you, I tried desperately. No, he said. You don't. You love what I do for you. You love the security, the house, the lifestyle. But you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have thrown me away for a few months of excitement with a serial cheater. He was right. God help me, he was right about everything. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. He headed for the stairs. 1 hour, Natalie. After that, I'm changing the locks. I sat at that table for 20 minutes, calling Ryan over and over, straight to voicemail. I texted him that Derek knew, that I needed him, that he had to call me back. The messages stayed on delivered, never switching to read. Finally, I called my sister. Do you know what time it is? Jenna mumbled. Derek's divorcing me, I sobbed. I need somewhere to stay. What? Why? I've been having an affair. Silence, then. With that doctor? Natalie, I warned you. I know. I know you warned me. I know I'm stupid. I know I ruined everything. But I need help, please. She sighed. You can stay in my guest room. But only temporarily, and you're going to get yourself together. I'm not enabling this mess. I spent the next 40 minutes throwing clothes into suitcases, my designer dresses mixed with hospital scrubs, my life in chaotic piles. Derek stayed in his office, door locked. I could hear him on the phone with his lawyer, with the bank, with his brother in California. As I dragged my bags downstairs, I tried one more time. "Derek, can we at least talk about—" "Your hour's up." He held out his hand. "Keys." I pulled them from my purse, the weight of them suddenly enormous. House key, car key for the BMW he'd bought me last year, mailbox key, gate key. Our whole life together on a silver Tiffany keychain he'd given me our first Christmas. "I kept your Honda," he said. "It's in the garage." "The title's in your name." "My old Civic from nursing school. The one with 200,000 miles and a broken air conditioner." I'd begged him to let me trade it in, but he'd insisted on keeping it as a backup car. "Derek." "Goodbye, Natalie." The door closed with a decisive click. The deadbolt turned. The porch light went off. I stood on the doorstep of what used to be my home, mascara running down my face, hair matted with sweat from the club, designer dress inside out. 3 hours ago, I'd been grinding against Ryan on the dance floor, feeling young and desired and free. Now I was 32 years old with 2 suitcases and a broken Honda, about to move into my sister's guest room like a college student who'd flunked out. I checked my phone one more time. Ryan had finally read my messages and blocked me. The drive to Jenna's apartment in Coral Springs took 40 minutes. I cried the whole way. Not the pretty tears of romantic movies, but ugly, choking sobs that made it hard to see the road. The sunrise was starting to paint the sky pink and orange, another beautiful South Florida morning that felt like mockery. Jenna was waiting in her kitchen with coffee and judgment. "Sit," she ordered. "Talk." So I told her everything. The supply closet kisses, the fake emergencies, the lies upon lies. How exciting it had been at first, how Ryan had made me feel special, how I'd convinced myself Derek would never find out. 4 months, she said when I finished. You threw away 8 years of marriage for 4 months with a man who was using you. I know. Derek's been nothing but good to you. I know. He supported you through school, dealt with your crazy hours, never asked you to choose between him and your career. I know, Jenna. I know I messed up. Messed up? She laughed harshly. Natalie, you didn't mess up. You made a calculated decision every single day to betray your husband. This isn't some accident. This is who you are. That hit harder than anything Derek had said. I need to call in sick to work, I mumbled. You need to quit, she corrected. You can't work with Ryan anymore. That's step 1 of fixing your life. But I couldn't quit. I needed the money now more than ever. Derek had been generous with the savings split, but that wouldn't last long. Rent, car insurance, health insurance, all the things he'd taken care of would now be my responsibility. I went to work that night because I had no choice. Ryan was there, of course, charming the new nursing graduates and flirting with the radiology tech. When he saw me, his face went cold. We need to talk, I said quietly. No, he replied, not even looking up from his charts. We don't. You told me you were divorced. You said, lower your voice. He glanced around the nurses' station. What happened between us was fun, but it's over. I thought you understood what this was. What this was? I stared at him. Ryan, I left my husband for you. I never asked you to do that. He shrugged. He didn't even look at me. He looked past me, at the new nursing graduate. Can you grab me Mrs. Petrov's chart, sweetheart? He gave the new girl a smile, the same one he used to give me. Then he finally looked back at me, his eyes empty. That was your choice. You son of a... Natalie. Our nursing manager, Grace Chen, appeared beside us. Can I see you in my office? My blood ran cold. Grace's expression was professionally neutral, but her eyes said everything. In her office, she closed the door and gestured to a chair. I've had a complaint. From who? Dr. Caldwell is concerned about your professional boundaries. He says you've been making inappropriate advances despite his requests to maintain a collegial relationship. I laughed. Actually laughed. Are you serious? He's lying. We've been having an affair for months. Grace's expression didn't change. Do you have any proof of this relationship? Proof? I grabbed my phone, scrolling through texts, but they were all gone. Every message, every photo, every flirty exchange. He'd deleted them all from my phone somehow, or I'd been blocked so thoroughly they'd disappeared. He must have deleted them. I see. Grace folded her hands. Natalie, regardless of what may or may not have happened, Dr. Caldwell is a senior attending physician. His word carries weight. If you can't maintain professional boundaries, I'll have to transfer you to another department. This is insane. Ask anyone, they've seen us together. I have asked. Her voice was gentle but firm. No one seems to have noticed any inappropriate behavior. In fact, several staff members mentioned that Dr. Caldwell has been nothing but professional. Of course, we'd been so careful, so discreet. Meeting miles away from the hospital, never arriving together, barely speaking at work to avoid suspicion. I'd been so proud of our secrecy. Now it was burying me. I need this job, I said quietly. Please. Then you'll accept a transfer to the medical floor. Night shift. It's that or resignation. The medical floor, where the work was twice as hard for less prestige, where the old-timer nurses went to finish out their careers, where I'd never see Ryan again. Fine, I whispered. The next months were hell. Jenna's guest room was tiny, barely fitting a twin bed and my suitcases. Her boyfriend Kyle made it clear I was an unwelcome intrusion. The medical floor was exhausting. Endless medication passes, confused elderly patients, and none of the adrenaline rush I'd loved about emergency. Derek filed for divorce on grounds of adultery. Florida is a no-fault state, but infidelity still mattered for things like alimony. His lawyer had documentation of everything: credit card receipts from hotels, timestamps from security cameras, even a statement from the Sapphire valet who'd seen us together. I got nothing but what he'd already given me. The Honda, which broke down twice in the first month. Half the savings, which dwindled fast. My clothes and personal belongings. 8 years of marriage, dissolved in a courthouse meeting that took less than an hour. Is there anything else you'd like to say to my client? Derek's lawyer asked at the end. I looked at Derek, hoping for something. Anger, sadness, any emotion that showed he still cared. But he just looked tired, older. The stress had added gray to his temples and lines around his eyes. I'm sorry, I said. He nodded once and left without a word. Social media became my torture and my addiction. I'd unfriended Derek, but mutual acquaintances still posted photos. Derek at a barbecue, laughing with friends. Derek at the beach, playing volleyball. Derek at his company's holiday party with a beautiful woman from accounting who'd always had a crush on him. 6 months after that awful morning, his relationship status changed. In a relationship with Melissa Crawford. Melissa. Sweet, age-appropriate Melissa who'd never dream of cheating. Who appreciated what she had. Who made Derek smile in photos like he hadn't smiled in years. Ryan, meanwhile, married Patricia in a lavish ceremony at the Breakers. I saw the photos on the hospital's social media page. Congratulations to our wonderful Dr. Caldwell and Dr. Wong. He'd never looked happier. I worked my night shifts, went home to Jenna's guest room, and wondered how I'd been so stupid. How I'd thrown away a good man for a few months of feeling desired. How I'd convinced myself that excitement was more important than trust. That passion was worth more than partnership. You need to move on, Jenna said one morning over coffee. It's been 8 months. Find your own place. Try dating again. Build a life. But how do you date when you're the cautionary tale? When every man who Googles you finds the social media posts about your very public humiliation, when you're 33 with baggage that weighs more than you do? I tried online dating. The men who matched with me fell into two categories: ones who wanted to sleep with a sure thing because cheaters always cheat, or ones who unmatched the moment they realized I was that Natalie Winters. Yes, I kept Derek's last name. Partly because changing it felt like admitting final defeat. Partly because Natalie Winters was who I'd been when I was happy, and I couldn't let go of that ghost. A year after the divorce, I saw them at Whole Foods. I was buying frozen dinners and box wine, the official groceries of divorced women everywhere. They were in the organic produce section, Derek's hand on the small of Melissa's back as she picked out heirloom tomatoes. She was glowing in that way women glow when they're loved properly, and her left hand sported a diamond ring that made my old wedding set look like costume jewelry. They were pregnant. The bump was small but unmistakable under her sundress. Derek had wanted children. I'd always said someday, too focused on my career and my freedom to think about morning sickness and diapers. Now someday had come for him with someone else. I abandoned my cart and fled to my car, crying so hard I couldn't drive for 20 minutes. A security guard knocked on my window to check if I was okay. "I'm fine," I lied. But I wasn't fine. I was living in a studio apartment in Margate that smelled like mildew. I was working a job I hated for a boss who knew my story and treated me like a cautionary tale. I was 34 years old and so lonely that I'd started having conversations with my mother's ghost just to hear another voice. Derek had rebuilt his life better than before. I'd destroyed mine for a man who probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup now. 2 years after that morning at Sapphire, I was at the gas station when I heard my name. Natalie? I turned to find Grace Chen, my old nursing manager. She looked exactly the same. Polished, professional, intimidating. "Grace, hi. I heard you left Boca Regional." "Yeah, I'm at Holy Cross now." A lateral move to avoid the memories. "You?" "Still there." "Actually, I wanted to tell you something. About Dr. Caldwell." My chest tightened. "I don't really—" "He's gone. Fired 6 months ago." "What?" "Turns out you weren't the only nurse. There were 3 others after you. The last one was 19, fresh out of school. She recorded their conversations, had proof. The hospital couldn't ignore it anymore." I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. "Is she okay?" "She's smart. Went straight to HR instead of throwing away her life for him." Grace paused. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you." "It wouldn't have mattered. I still cheated on my husband." "True." She studied me. "How are you really?" "I'm surviving." "That's not the same as living." "No, it wasn't. But when you've destroyed your own life so thoroughly, survival feels like an achievement." I drove home to my empty apartment, heated up a frozen dinner, and scrolled through social media like digital self-harm. Derek's son had been born. Thomas Derek Winters. The photos showed a beautiful baby with his father's eyes and his mother's smile. The comments were full of congratulations, heart emojis, and "so happy for you" messages. I closed the app and stared at my reflection in the black screen. 35 years old, divorced, living paycheck to paycheck. No friends except the other night shift nurses who didn't know my story. No family except Jenna, who still looked at me with disappointment. This wasn't supposed to be my story. I was supposed to be the success, the nurse who married well, lived in a beautiful home, had it all. Instead, I was the woman who threw it all away for a few nights at a club, a few stolen hours in hotel rooms, a few months of feeling special. The saddest part? I couldn't even blame Ryan anymore. Yes, he'd lied. Yes, he'd used me, but I'd walked into it with my eyes wide open, ignoring every warning sign because I wanted to feel young and desired more than I wanted to protect what I had. Derek was right. I hadn't loved him. I'd loved what he provided, the security, the lifestyle, the identity of being Mrs. Winters. When that wasn't enough anymore, When I got bored with contentment, I'd burned it all down for the thrill of the flame. 3 hours at Sapphire. That's all it took to end 8 years. 3 hours of dancing and drinking and grinding against a man who forgot my name the moment I became inconvenient. 3 hours that cost me everything. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Jake from Holy Cross, the respiratory therapist. I know this is random, but would you maybe want to grab coffee sometime?" Jake. Nice Jake, who didn't know my history, who smiled when he saw me and always helped with difficult patients, who was going through his own divorce and understood that some people carry damage that never quite heals. I stared at the message for a long time. This was what dating looked like now. Not the excitement of sneaking around with someone forbidden. Just a nice man asking for coffee. Normal, boring, safe. The old me would have ignored it, would have held out for something more thrilling, but the old me had destroyed everything she touched. "I'd like that," I typed back. My hand was shaking, not with excitement, but with fear. Fear that I would just mess this up too. Maybe boring wasn't so bad. Maybe safe was what I needed. Maybe after you've been the villain in your own story, you learn to appreciate small kindnesses from people who don't know your sins. Or maybe this was just another mistake waiting to happen. Another man to disappoint. Another life to ruin. Only time would tell. But as I sat in my studio apartment with its water-stained ceiling and creaking air conditioner, one thing was certain. I'd had my chance at happiness. I'd held it in my hands for 8 years and threw it away for 3 hours at a nightclub. Derek was living his best life with a woman who valued him, a son who'd never know how close he came to having a different mother, and a future that looked nothing like our past. And me? I was learning that some mistakes you don't come back from. Some betrayals leave scars that never fade. Some losses teach you the value of what you had only after it's gone forever. 3 hours at Sapphire changed everything. 3 hours that shattered a decade, and I had no one to blame but myself.